Hello everyone, Wilhelm Hast here with the podcast Winning the Game, where I share from decades of training productive leaders to produce even more, but more importantly get out of stress and overwhelm and access their innate well-being. And I'm joined today with Fi.
Hi, great to be here.
Yes, business partner and also my wife, no secret about that. 8 years married this week, so it's great to do a different kind of podcast at times and just explore together. And today it's time for me to ask you questions about your job.
I feel I'm at an interview.
An interview, yes, like an interrogation. No, I'll just ask Fi questions about the kind of work we do and we'll see how this evolves, right? So I first want to ask you, what is most meaningful for you with the kind of work you do and we do together?
I think that is a beautiful and probably very deep and broad question. I think what comes to mind really in this, Wilhelm, is when you see somebody who comes who's struggling, and they can be struggling with lots of different things. A lot of people are stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're burnt out. A couple of my more recent clients have come just feeling this lack of energy, this tiredness, missing their sparkle and motivation and inspiration in life. And we all love, when we're inspired and love what we're doing. So they know that there's something going on inside of themselves. And they really want and have this deeper feeling and knowing that life can be different, that they can thrive in a completely different way. And so what I love is just watching people transform from that lack of energy or that stuckness or that anxiety or that stress and overwhelm into somebody who's alive and energetic and thriving and inspired with their job or inspired that they found their purpose, inspired with just spending time with their family, doing the simple things. For some people, it's as simple as this. They notice there's a beautiful sunset. They notice the moon in the sky. They're slowed down enough to experience feeling grateful, to experience the flow of life, to experience that energy and power and capacity that's inside of them, and to become more wise and insightful. Just watching that, it fills my heart up so much. And I've seen it in my own coaching with clients, but also in the programs that we do, to watch people over a very short period of time, or other clients who are with us years, and where they start and oh my God, where they land.
Yes.
It's like night and day, and there is nothing that will fill my heart more than that. And maybe loving you, but there.
That's not so much work related.
No, that's not work at all. But
no, and I know you seem to me very certain when you work with people that when you start a coaching process, or you do an intake call, or you start off with somebody, there's no doubt in your mind that this person will have a transformative experience along the lines that you speak about now. And I'm curious about what creates that certainty or absolute certainty for you that the transformation will happen, because for you that's obvious in my experience, but it isn't for a lot of people. Leading other people, coaching other people, that change is even possible. So what creates that certainty for you that obviously this person will transform?
I'm going to answer this question in two ways, Wilhelm. And the first is just a short story, because I think it's important that I was stressed and burnt out and overwhelmed. I was also very insecure. Now, I had a great job. I was being paid well. People thought highly of me. I actually went and did 2 masters to try and get rid of this insecurity, and it never left. It never left me. So even though all these accolades, all the people talking nicely about me, inside of me was kind of being eaten away by this battery acid of insecurity. Now, I remember joining a coaching program back in 2009. And I walked into the room, there were 50 other people there. There was, as there is always a smattering of talk and meeting people and so forth. And I remember the first speaker that we had that morning. And I still remember it to this day because it was so striking to me. His name was Bill Cumming. He walked in, he took the first day of this training. And he walked in a pair of dungarees, hobnail boots. He had a navy jacket and a tie and a shirt, striped shirt. And he looked like a grizzly bear, like he had this big beard and wild hair. And my inner dialogue said, what is this guy going to teach me about me or life or whatever in this coaching course? And by 11 o'clock that morning, I had dissolved into puddles of tears. Because what he shared, and the certainty that he shared it with, that everybody has inside of them this wholeness, this perfection, this undeniable well-being. And how he shared it, I felt the truth of it. It wasn't something he was teaching me, it was something I was connecting to in myself. And for the first time in my life, and I was, probably 40 years of age at this stage, so this was not as a young girl, I was well into my career.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, I actually felt the truth of being complete and in complete well-being. And finding that love and compassion for myself. Now, I've been long on this journey, 15 years, 16 years later, and the conversations that I am leading with clients is taking them back to the truth of who they are. And that is without doubt. We're all born that way. Now, you can talk about psychology and you can put psychology in the way and say this and that, but actually beneath our psychology, there is a part of us that is the truth of who we are, that is undeniable. It is perfect. It has everything we need in order to navigate life with ease, with grace, with wisdom, with insight. And it's there for the taking, but we are asleep to it.
So if we all are that well-being or completeness at core, how come we don't experience that and live through that?
I think that's a fabulous question. Well, if I take you back to little kids, if you look at a 2 or a 3 or a 4-year-old, you will see this in action all of the time. They are creative, they are full of energy and joy and aliveness. So we are born this way. Now, what happens to us at a certain point in time, and I can't tell you exactly the age because I don't remember this for myself, and probably the listeners don't either, but we hear something, or somebody says something, or we notice and make an observation about something like this is how life is and therefore. And so we have some beliefs that we have about ourselves and others or about life that we take into ourselves, you could say, and that we believe to be true. I'll give you one example. When I was a young kid, I was chubby. For those people who don't know what that means, it was kind of slightly on the side of fat. And I remember when I was 13 years of age, my dad saying to me, hey, Fee, you're becoming a little chubby now. You really need to lose some weight. And that stung as if somebody had put an arrow into my heart. Yeah. And then you go with the belief, and then that's true, and then you're kind of living from that space into life. So what we have is a system where we take a belief into ourselves, and that belief, it's like an inner dialogue. It's telling us how we are, how life is, and we've got thousands of those that go on. Like, I'm this, I'm not that, I'm fat, I'm not thin, I'm clever, I'm kind, you know what I mean? We have all of these beliefs that we've stored in our system. They become our default being, let's say, and they're kind of informing us moment to moment about how life is. I should be more kind. I should be more confident. I should. And so we have a running voice in our head telling us what we should and should not be doing. And the thing about it is, until 10, 15 years ago, I believed that voice in my head. I thought that what that voice in my head was telling me was true about me and life and reality. To only find out later in life that it's rubbish, it's noise. 98% of that inner dialogue, that voice, that ego telling us this or that, is made up rubbish. That is not to be relied on. That is not truthful. It's not telling us anything about who I am or who I'm not, or how life is or how life is not. It's just giving a running commentary. Like the metaphor I use is if you've ever watched CNN or BBC News, it's like the crawl on the bottom of the screen going, breaking news, Fiona's having an insecure thought. Breaking news, Fiona is afraid of, I don't know, snakes. And it's just that crawl at the bottom of the screen going on and going on and going on with our breaking news thoughts. Now, if we lean in and believe all the thoughts we think, we're going to be in pretty uncomfortable feelings a lot of the time. Like if I have a thought before I do, let's say, a presentation or a podcast, I feel insecure. Well, I'm going to feel insecure, and that would be my experience. I might clam up, my mouth might go dry. So whatever we think, we play out in the world.
So that makes sense, that our thinking from the past shows up in our head and clouds the well-being and the beauty, you could say, that we are at core.
Yes.
And I can't change my thinking sometimes, even if I want to. So what to do with this thought patterns and beliefs and stuff then? If we want to have a more, I like the word beautiful today, it seems, more beautiful experience of life. So what's the way out?
Well, what I help people, clients, or our customers explore for themselves, and what I've seen for myself is we have a human system, meaning that what we put into the system will give us an output, like any system. So the input equals to the output. Now, if we know that that's how our human system works, if we know how the system of thinking works, and we also know that the system of thinking means that whatever we think we feel and experience, and the next thing that we think and feel, we'll experience that. But it's always on the move. So we're never stuck with a thought or a feeling, because if we let it, the system allows, it's like self-clearing, it just moves itself through. So as an example.
Can I slow down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because let's break down the system, because it's so simple the way you describe it, and I know how powerful it is. So you say that the system that human beings live inside of, or the system that gets in the way of the deeper felt experience of beauty in life, is that we have a thought, and that thought is correlated or evokes a feeling that's correlated to that level of thinking. Yeah. So if I think, oh my God, I can never do this, I have feelings of insecurity, fear, overwhelm, stress, nervousness. And if I have a thought that other people are idiots, not that I would ever have that, but then I get frustrated and annoyed and impatient with people, right? So the feelings I have is directly correlated or correspondent to whatever thinking goes on in the moment. Yes. And you call that an experience. So yeah, I experience people as idiots, and I feel frustrated.
Yeah.
And they are, it's not that I think that, they are that, so I get tricked. I forget that my own thinking is involved in the system, right?
Well, what you're pointing to is really cool, because what a lot of people will have been taught, will probably have learned along the way, is that the things outside of ourselves make us feel a certain way. Like, he makes me feel that way. Yeah. She makes me feel that way. My boss makes me feel bad. The traffic makes me feel frustrated. We have a outside-in perspective on how we experience our feelings. But what I've seen to be true for myself and with my clients, and in the greater conversation that we're talking about, is the thought, feeling, and experience system is self-contained. Yeah. It cannot be contaminated by anything outside of us. So what I mean by that is, if we take the experience of traffic, it's a very easy one to talk about. If I'm in a rush and the traffic is, oh my God, I look at my GPS and it's 35 minutes and I need to be in a meeting in 15 minutes. What can happen for some people is they get so annoyed, so irritated, they're banging the steering wheel, they're going, oh my God, they're making panicked phone calls. And for somebody else who might be in the car in front or the car behind, they're going, oh, good, I get a chance to chill before I get to work. And for somebody else, they might have an opportunity to listen to a podcast. So they finish up their podcast that they're listening to and go, great, I can finish my podcast. You know, I can finish listening to it and learn something. Somebody else might be listening to music and going, oh, good, I get to listen to this classical piece, and they're carried away and in love with life and the music and inspired and so forth. So the traffic hasn't caused anybody to feel either frustrated or in love with their music or great, I'm finishing the podcast. The traffic creates a thought that if we believe it, and if we take it on, and if we make meaning of it, is going to keep us in that either frustrated feeling or that gorgeous feeling, or because that's what happens. Life happens and we have thinking about it. And it's the thinking that we have about it that is actually going to change our experience of it.
This is so cool, because in the same circumstance, or similar for people, by the traffic congestion, right, the traffic jam, you'd say, like, yeah, 4 people can feel very, very different, even though they're all going to be late for something important, right? Yeah. So in the same circumstance, different people will feel different depending on the thinking. But it's also the same with one person ourselves. In the same circumstance, I can feel 4 different ways with those people that are not behaving the way I want.
Yes.
Some days I'm get angry and frustrated and impatient. It's a kind of common thing for me. Sometimes I feel compassion. Sometimes I feel curiosity. How can it look so difficult to them that we can't just move on, right? So in the same situation, depending on our thinking, we have a different experience of life.
Yeah.
And for you, even altering the circumstances outside of you kept you in the same feeling, because you said you were insecure about yourself, right? And thought, oh, I better get a master's degree.
Times 2.
Yeah, I know. But first, let's pick a really great university, study like crazy while doing a full-time job. And then Henley awards you an MBA for, was that the one with distinction also? Or, yeah, as always. So you perform really well, only to discover that the circumstances changed, your business card changed, and you felt the same inside.
Absolutely.
So what to do about it? Get a second degree in whatever it is, organizational
change,
transformation and change, or whatever it's called. Like, also with distinction, only to discover that that outside change didn't alter my inside experience because your thinking had not upgraded.
That's right. And because they're not connected. And that's really important to start to wake up to.
Well, how could they not be connected?
Well, because an outside circumstance can't make me feel a certain way.
Oh, sure. The feelings and the circumstances is not connected. Absolutely, sure. Yeah.
So it's not an outside-in job. It's an inside-out job.
So the experience of life is not an outside-in system, meaning change the outside and feel different on the inside. It's not a system that works like that, right?
But that's really cool.
Yeah.
Can I tell you why that's really cool?
Yes, and we will wrap up this podcast in about 5 minutes. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's really cool. So why? Because nothing outside of us has to change for our experience to change. The only thing that needs to change effectively is having a new thought.
It's interesting when you speak here. I know you really well, right? We work really well together, but this is one of the things that you are so certain about. That was my first question, right? How can you be so certain your people will change? I listen to you now, and it's interesting how I again hear this. This is not something you believe, it's something that you know. You don't have a belief that life works this way. It's a knowing, you're dead certain that this is how the system works. Even if we don't see it sometimes, because it doesn't look like that. It's like a magic trick to life, right? It's one of these illusions. But beyond the skilled magician, we know it's just something that is hidden out of you for a while and it looks like it disappears. It isn't. A magician's trick doesn't make things disappear. They just move to a location we don't see them, right? Mm-hmm. An experience of life is never created from the outside in.
That's right. I mean, what we're talking about are the principles about how our experience gets created.
Yeah.
And as we pointed to the system,
Yeah.
the system is a principal way of how we work and create our experience. What goes in there, whether it's happy, sad, insecure, frustrated, gives us the outcome, but the system never changes. The system only ever works one way. Whatever we think, we will feel that thinking, and that creates our experience, or you could say, maybe better said, is that creates our frame, or that creates the color glasses through which we see life.
Yeah.
Now, when we know that to be true, we start to wonder, why am I taking my thinking so seriously? Because the only thing that's truthful is the system, how the system works,
Yes.
not the moment-to-moment content that goes through the system, which changes, which iterates, which moves, if we let it. So a lot of our thought-created, whether frustration, irritation, anger, sad, we already know the truth that it moves. We have never had one thought since we've been born, and it's never changed. I mean, we have, I don't know, they say 20, 25,000, 60,000 thoughts a day, depending on what school of neuroscience you look at. But you can have 1,000 thoughts times 60, or you can have 60,000 new thoughts. I mean, that's up to us. And the only reason that we stay with some thinking for a very long period of time is we make that thinking important.
Yeah.
So my insecure thinking was very important to me for 20 years. Not that I liked it, but simply that I thought it was who I was.
Yeah.
And that was real and true, as opposed to, no, when I think an insecure thought, I'll have an insecure feeling, and that will give an experience of insecurity.
So I hear you say two things. One, there's only one answer to the statement like, I feel irritated because, and what follows after because is, there's always one answer only. I feel irritated because I have irritating thoughts right now. I feel stressed because I have stressful thinking right now. I feel insecure because I have insecure thinking right now. There's only one answer ever to the system.
Yep.
Yes. I feel stressed because, not the traffic, it's because I have stressful thinking about the traffic. Yes. Secondly, so interesting to talk like this because I hear new things when we look curiously at these kind of principles together, right?
Yes.
The second thing that gives you absolute certainty when you work with clients that the transformation will happen is not only that the system only ever works one way ever, because that's the human design, and secondly is there is new thinking coming. There is no doubt in your mind that the person will not have another thought at some time, because the system is designed that way too, that if we don't cling and hold on and repeat and are righteous or stuck, when we start to see the inside out nature of life, then new fresh thinking starts to flow into the system naturally, because we're built like that too.
That's
just like cells heal wounds and cuts and stuff in our biological body, it's built for healing. Then our thinking is built to renew itself.
Absolutely. It's a self-healing mechanism.
Yeah.
As soon as a thought moves, the feeling will move.
Yeah.
As soon as the thought moves, the feeling will move. And that's the beauty of the system.
Yes.
So we're never stuck with a feeling that we don't like.
This looks even more simple to me now than sometimes when I look into the similar or same principles, right? So, yeah, that was the question. How can you be so certain that your clients will have a transformation when you start on a journey with them? And it's because of the design of the system. You don't need to do much except pointing them to explore and see how the system works, and the system starts to work for them instead of against them.
Absolutely. It's like a stick when it gets stuck in an eddy or a little part of the river.
Yeah.
You only need for the river to rise. You don't need to go chasing after, how do I get the stick unstuck?
Yeah.
It's actually as soon as the water flows, or you could say the thought flows in this metaphor, then the stick will run down the river.
Yeah. Great. So if a listener would like to learn more about what you do, and where would they find some information about you? Is it on LinkedIn is a good place? Or
So probably Fiona Jacob on LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me. I'm also at Fiona F. Jacob on Insta. I do have a website. It is, we'll call it under construction for now.
Yeah, sure. So Fiona Jacob on LinkedIn, you'll quickly find Fi there if you want to reach out or have questions or whatever. Well, thank you for listening to the podcast. We do these ones shared currently maybe once a week or so. And myself, Wilhelm Hast, do 3-4 times per week, shorter episodes of 5-8 minutes to support you as a leader to lead yourself and others with more impact, clarity, and power. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more episodes very soon.
Bye-bye.